revolutionized how accurately you can target them.
Rahul flaunts Chinese drone.
This is made by a Chinese factory called DJI, and this is actually a toy. And this has revolutionized how accurately you can target kinetic energy. We have to build such a system.
Drone stunt triggers backlash. BSF flags security threat. Drone body asks, why belittle Indian drones?
ये बहुत ही एक अजीब सा स्टेटमेंट है जो पूरी इंडियन इकोसिस्टम के लिए डिमोटिवेटिंग है। ये बात करके कि इंडिया में किसी को कुछ नहीं आता, इससे नहीं हो सकता है। ग्राउंड पे उतरने की जरूरत है और एक्चुअल सजेशंस देने की जरूरत है।
Chinese drone raga.
Well, the Chinese drone raga. Did Rahul Gandhi have a point though? We'll put out some facts and try and see what the issue is really all about. Why has there been a backlash from the drone industry against this video put out by Rahul Gandhi? I'm Shiv. We'll ask those questions right here on 5 Live. Let's get to the headlines first. Congress Overseas Chief Sam Pitroda backs China, says China threat is being blown out of proportion. Congress distances itself for the nth time from Pitroda, says China remains India's foremost security challenge. How much of a headache is this man going to be for the grand old party? Elon Musk's Doge reveals 182 crore rupees in US aid funds used for voter turnout in India. BJP claims the money was used to fuel anti-government movements and influence the 2024 election. Stalin versus Education Mantri face off over the National Education Policy or NEP. Stalin claims blackmail by Education Minister, says he's being threatened to stop funds for Tamil Nadu. Dharmendra Pradhan says politically motivated move by DMK. More trouble for India's Got Latent show host and judges. Comedian Samay Raina summoned tomorrow by the Maha Cyber Cell. Ranveer Alabadia asked to appear on February the 24th. Absolutely ridiculous overreach by the Indian system. Earthquake measuring 4 hits Delhi NCR. Strong tremors felt in the national capital. Prime Minister Modi urges residents not to panic and to follow all precautions. Viewer, India is nowhere in the drone race, or something to that effect, is the latest claim by Congress leader and leader of the opposition, Rahul Gandhi. As part of a series of videos where he puts the spotlight on a certain sector that piques his interest at that point of time, the latest by Rahul shows him holding up a Chinese drone and lamenting that India is far behind, has missed the bus, and is therefore at a disadvantage in modern warfare. Now, viewer, I've just returned from the city of Bengaluru this morning, where I had a chance to actually spend some time with Indian drone companies, Indian drone makers who displayed their drones and their drone technology at the Aero India show. And I can tell you that there couldn't be a worse time to throw shade on India's drone industry. It is newer, younger, and much smaller than China's, no doubt. But let me explain why Rahul Gandhi's video reveals not just a misunderstanding of India's technological journey, but also an alarming tendency to overlook the achievements of our brightest and youngest innovators in a sector that is particularly shining. First, the facts. Yes, China has a larger drone industry. But should we measure success purely by size, or should we measure it by quality, innovation, and trust? India's drone ecosystem, while young, is growing rapidly and has made remarkable strides in the past 10 years. Today, Indian-made drones are being supplied to our military, enhancing our national security in the most difficult areas. They're providing real-time intelligence. They're carrying freight loads. They're transporting weapons and ammunition. They're providing live targeting data. They're keeping tabs on enemy movements. They're even armed and ready to drop explosives if necessary. Now, let me be clear about this. Indian drones are of far superior quality than mass-produced, untrustworthy, low-quality alternatives from China. The Indian drone industry is far smaller, but it is choosing the correct path to market at a time when trust in Chinese hardware and software is at rock bottom. This is not an exaggeration. It is going to happen. At a time when Chinese tech is being viewed with deep suspicion, not just in India, but across the world, when global powers are looking for reliable alternatives, why should we look at a Chinese drone and feel inadequate? Instead, we should be looking at the incredible Indian startups that are pushing the boundaries, competing against global giants, including in China, and proving their mettle against all odds. Companies like NewSpace, RAFAM Fiber, IdeaForge, AeroArc, Bonvi Aero, Endure Air, Scandron, IG Drones, and so many others. They're all Indian companies. And many of these companies aren't just building drones, which isn't that complex anymore, but building the software that converts these drones into intelligent battlefield assets. Many companies are building the optics that are converting these drones into incredible eyes in the sky. Why does Rahul Gandhi not see that? Rahul Gandhi appears to have woken up to the realities of drone warfare years too late. Drones have already reshaped battlefields. The Indian military has been using them for years itself, whether for surveillance, border security, or even combat. Our defense forces recognized this shift long ago and have been actively supporting Indian companies in this sector. But instead of applauding these efforts, instead of encouraging young entrepreneurs and a young sector that's making India proud, that is really battling the giants of this industry, Rahul Gandhi chooses to brandish a Chinese drone in an act of uninformed pessimism, in my view. There's much to criticize and slam. Let's make no mistake, viewer. There is much to criticize and be unhappy about in India's defense and aviation sector, believe me. And if you've watched this show or my weekend defense show, Battle Cry, you know I call a spade when it comes to Indian aerospace, frequently taking on or calling out the government on missteps and bad decisions. There are many bad decisions in aerospace, including in fighter aircraft, that I've recently reported on. Go and have a look. But drones is an outlier sector, viewer, where things are actually going well. And that's why this video by Rahul Gandhi is so half-baked and misinformed. It would have been nice to see someone like Rahul Gandhi recognize progress where it is genuinely happening, understand the value of homegrown technology, and support the innovators striving against all odds to put India on this global map. Rahul Gandhi has the right intent. Manufacturing needs to be the focus. Leading edge technology needs to be the focus. All I'm saying is drones are where it's actually happening in India. Yes, we should push for even greater tech self-reliance at a time when even bigger imports are looming like an ominous shadow over India, including fighter aircraft. Yes, we must invest in core technologies like batteries and other things. But let's do so with a sense of ambition, knowing all the facts of where things really are, and optimism, not despair and ignorance, and with an intent to pull a sector down. Let's celebrate our innovators, because in drones, unlike in many other sectors, they deserve to be applauded. Let's back our entrepreneurs here. And let's take pride in the fact that India's drone industry is not just catching up, it is proving to the world that India is ready to lead. Now let me tell you about the video itself and why it has drawn criticism from the drone industry and the political establishment. Rahul Gandhi has been slammed for using a banned Chinese drone. Now, Rahul Gandhi is facing a big backlash from industry experts and BJP leaders after posting this video that we're talking about on his social media, where he's seen using a Chinese drone, a DJI drone. DJI, by the way, viewer, happens to be the largest recreational drone company in the world. Well, it isn't just the BJP. No matter where you stand, you can be a Congress supporter or a BJP supporter. Everything is about politics these days, but ultimately it also comes down to facts which I've put in front of you. The border security force, which uses drones, they've also now jumped into this. They've have now conducted 2 successful operations in the border districts of Amritsar, leading to the recovery of 2 DJI Chinese drones, which is what Pakistan uses. These are drones that are even available in India on the black market. BSF has said that these were used to smuggle goods to Pakistan. These are the same drones that Rahul Gandhi has mentioned in his video. Rahul Gandhi in his video states that India lacks a strong production base for drones, stating that India needs a clear strategy to build drones. To highlight, he was flying a Chinese drone and was all praises for it when he could easily have been using very, very high quality Indian drones that are in the market. The BJP too tore into Rahul Gandhi, lashing out at him for praising a Chinese drone. The Saffron Party asserted that the same Rahul who keeps mocking India is never behind in praising China.
This is made by a Chinese factory called DJI, and this is actually a toy. And this has revolutionized how accurately you can target kinetic energy. We have to build such a system. And the sad fact is that we're nowhere here. We don't make any of the components inside this. We don't understand how it's made. We certainly don't make any of the optics. We don't understand how it's made. And that's what my speech was getting at, that this is actually where we should be playing. And the network that produces this is where the real value is. And all AI is actually going to be operating on this network.
And India Today's defense correspondent Shivani Sharma, who is just back from the Aero India show, is live with me. You know, Shivani, the message from Rahul Gandhi, no one can argue with that. He's putting the spotlight on how India needs to catch up. India needs to match up in terms of manufacturing. All those are, good points that must be made, and it's good that Rahul Gandhi has made them. But his choice of topic, which is drones, seems so misplaced. You've just come back from Aero India, and I know that, you saw it as well. It's a countless ecosystem of Indian companies that are doing amazing things in the world of drones.
Shiv, the Indian companies are now making drones that are not even made by Russian and Ukrainian companies.
Yeah.
I've seen myself how the kamikaze drones are being manufactured, developed in India. And not only this, Shiv, you remember we've been covering Dronathon, where in the high altitude areas, there are around 400 companies, the indigenous companies that are participating with their platforms, with their drones. And the Indian Army has been using these indigenous drones since very long. And I must mention here, Shiv, that it's prohibited to use drones that have Chinese components. So that is also a prerogative that Rahul Gandhi must draw, and he must be aware of this particular thing. And that's why the Drone Association, the Drone Federation, has criticized Rahul Gandhi that because he's showcasing this Chinese drone which is used by the terrorists. We have seen that every day, almost every day, BSF has been thwarting these attempts of smuggling with these particular drones. The terrorists from Pakistan, they are using these drones to smuggle not only weapons but also drugs. And this particular drone, which is actually banned in India, is being highlighted by Rahul Gandhi.
Okay.
Not only this, Shiv, he's belittling the Indian companies. He says that we need to do much more like this Chinese company. So this is unacceptable to the Indian companies because we know at what pace these Indian companies are growing. They are growing at a very good pace, and all these Indian companies, they are actually slamming Rahul Gandhi. The Drone Federation is slamming Rahul Gandhi for belittling and demotivating them.
Okay, Shivani, thanks very much for that. It's true that, there are so many Indian startups, all of them run by very young engineers and young professionals who are all trying to make a mark in drones. Many of them have already, bagged big orders from the Indian military. They're trying to break into the larger recreational market as well. This is a sector that is definitely, taking off. Joining me live now is Smith Shah. He's the chief of the Drone Federation of India. Mr. Shah, welcome. Thanks for your time here on India Today. What was it about Rahul Gandhi's video, that has upset you so greatly, Smith? He's holding a DJI drone, says, India has a long way to go. Has he missed the message from the Indian industry?
Thank you, Shiv, for having me over. I think I will try and speak on behalf of the entire ecosystem who's working very hard. Calling the entire ecosystem by saying that, we don't understand any components and we don't make anything and all would be like a very broad-based statement. And especially doing this by holding a Chinese drone, which is not just, counterproductive to the narrative of China, but also legally banned in India, just makes it even more, demotivating for the ecosystem. and also saying that we don't understand, any of the ecosystem, we don't have good policy, or alluding to something like that. Now, you see, in 2021, government came up with a policy called Drone Rules 2021, in which entire policy, what is allowed, what is not allowed, how do you certify a drone, all of this was made very clear.
Yeah.
In fact, this is one of the policies where two students from an engineering college, if they want to start a startup, they can read the rules like a newspaper. They don't need any legal help to understand what is required, what is not required. Government went to the point where the language of the document was also made very easy. Second thing, once the rules were easy, government said, okay, this is not enough. Let's do one thing. People who manufacture drones in India, if they make 100 rupees of sales, and if their purchase of raw materials is, let's say, 40 rupees, the 100 minus 40, 60 is called as domestic value addition, on which government gives 20% incentive under PLI scheme. Then government said, okay, even this is not enough, because regulatory wise, we have been slightly, late.
Yeah.
They said, okay, let's get a very good set of regulations. Let's get financial incentive. And by the way, let's ban import of foreign drones as a whole. So now suddenly you have a conducive ecosystem only for the Indian people.
Correct.
We have companies in India who are building drones for the defense forces. You mentioned about Aero India.
Yeah.
One of the startups is actually working with the US Air Force Research Laboratory. Imagine, US Air Force Research Laboratory, an Indian company is working with them to collaborate and build a solution for the US market. That is the kind of, understanding that our people have got. And then we, I would love to hear suggestions about, yes, we need to make drones and drone components. Now, how do we do that? Are there specific funding programs? Do we need to create standards? Do we need to work with industry under some specific schemes and all? I mean, it's not really about what we need to do. That the entire ecosystem understands. How do we need to do it?
Yeah.
What support can important people bring in? So that is the kind of conversation that will be more helpful while holding an Indian drone, maybe motivating young people and saying, don't worry,
that's exactly what I was going to ask, Smith. Would it have been more, constructive if Rahul Gandhi, and we're not questioning his intent here. He's trying to make a good point, perhaps, about, needing to focus on core technologies, leading edge technologies and manufacturing, which is something he has raised before. But would it have been more constructive to the drone sector in India, which, like you said, is competing with the big guns of the world now, and has a conducive atmosphere here in India? Would it have been better if he had sort of focused on Indian entrepreneurs, Indian drone startups, and made a point that these guys are doing so much work, and here's what the government needs to do more to make us globally competitive? Would that have been better?
Definitely. Any emerging tech industry, when an important person stands shoulder to shoulder with them and gives the confidence, it sends out a very important message to the market. This really helps bring confidence in the ecosystem, raise money in the ecosystem, and motivate young entrepreneurs to do more. And influencers should basically come up with detailed suggestions and tell the government, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Things like this will make more sense.
Yeah.
And only difference in this would be, we have 400 companies in the country, but any one drone could have been, chosen as the subject. So I mean, those are some soft things that I would like to say. Again, very important point made. Could have been better to leverage this opportunity and make
the information in general, Smith. I get that Rahul Gandhi is a politician. He's obviously trying to appeal to young India and the yuvas of the country, as it were. But some of that information seemed to be quite dated. He talks about drones in warfare. Drones have been used in warfare for a while now. The Indian Army uses a lot of drones for all manner of things. There is the whole drone Didi scheme where women in villages are being trained in usage of drones for all manner of purposes. There are drone delivery systems. Drones are used with the government in land surveying and stuff. I remember we had one of those entrepreneurs with us at the India Today conclave recently. So, drones becoming part of, daily existence and daily life is a thing that has been happening for a while. So to see Rahul Gandhi now talk about it as if it is some, very new thing where we have missed the bus seems a little incongruous.
I will just appeal to everyone important in the country to work with us, bring positive suggestions, stand shoulder to shoulder with the industry and make more happen rather than just criticize about what's not happening, because that broad-based criticism is very easy to do.
Yeah.
But getting into one level of detail and, putting people to execute stuff is what something, will be more helpful for the ecosystem and will show more responsibility. That's what is from my side.
Yes. Smith Shah, appreciate you joining me and giving us your thoughts on this. It's an important sector. It's a nascent sector. There's a long way to go. When hopefully drones by some of these companies will become household names in stores across the world, like what DJI of China is right now. That can happen because China is not trusted. There is a huge opportunity right now for India, and India must take that space. There is no other country in the world that can produce quality at low cost and reliability like India can right now, and they deserve a political class that holds up an Indian drone perhaps and really encourages them. Smith, thanks very much for joining us on that. Well, a few years ago, during the India Today conclave, in fact, in 2021, 4 years ago, I had the opportunity to speak to some of the leading lights of the Indian drone industry. Idea Forge, New Space, and some others. Take a look. This was 4 years ago. Take a look at the amazing work that they were doing.
Your company, and we at India Today reported it first, has started supplying drones to the Indian Army in the backdrop of what we've seen happen in Ladakh. Now, I know we can't get into any specifics, but I want you to paint a picture for our audience here of what your drones, as we speak now, are doing for the Army in Ladakh. And as a journalist who's been there, I know that they're providing a technology and a capability that has never been available before. Paint us that picture, Ankit.
So we all remember what happened during the Galwan tragedy that our country went through. And one of the biggest reasons why we could not predict those kind of moments was because in those extreme harsh environments, there is no availability of intelligence unless you have technology to aid and support that. We do have a certain set of systems that can keep an eye on those areas and those borders. But typically what we find is that these larger systems that get deployed ultimately are fewer in number, and they can keep eyes only on as many number of areas as we can afford to deploy them. And also it is difficult to create the infrastructure required to deploy those kind of systems. So the Indian Army, which has been looking at the drone technology for a really long while now, decided that they want to actually induct systems which are more in number, distributed surveillance, to look at these very, very precious areas of our country. And therefore they decided to go for purchasing systems that can help us keep that eye at that altitude in those environmental conditions. And I think today the systems that we are delivering to them are helping them keep those eyes on those areas, to give them unprecedented views of what they never saw was even existing on the other side, or had already been done to their surprise, and finally be able to get more familiar with the terrain that while we are intimate with, but we only see the ground view of it, not the God's view of it.
One of the amazing things, Ankit is very modest, but one thing I can tell you for sure is that with the drones that have just been supplied by Ankit's company, the Indian Army, ladies and gentlemen, in Ladakh for the first time has actually seen what the other side looks like in color. So far they've had fuzzy black and white images. I'm sorry we can't show you those images because they're classified, but the first color high-resolution images of what the other side is doing. There's been new information about bases. It's incredible. Samir, I'd like to bring you in. Samir, while Ankit's company, Idea Forge, has supplied surveillance drones, which are now in Ladakh, Samir's company bagged a contract earlier this year to supply swarm drones. Now, swarm drones is another phrase that many of you may have heard about. This is cutting-edge stuff. These are drones that fly in collaboration, conduct missions in a collaborative manner. They're talking to each other. There's a great deal of software going on. But for the benefit of this audience and for all of us, Samir, tell us about what swarm drones are and how they're going to plug into the Indian military. What kind of roles will they perform?
Yeah, thank you, Shiv. Swarm drones basically are a system with a collection of a large number of robotic entities. Now, swarming can be in air, on land, or on the sea. But specifically taking a look at swarming in air, these are drones which work together in a cooperative manner using only algorithms with minimal human on the loop setup. So that is the first differential what you'll take note of the way that, UAVs working together have been taking place over the years. Two things are very important to define swarming. First, the capability of each drone to not strike into the next drone which is around it. This is called cohesion. Now, this is something which is only possible if the drone is aware what is around it and how it is to, kind of circumvent around another drone which is coming towards it. The second aspect which is important is the drone or the swarm's ability to interact with the environment it is flying. If, let's say, it's in a mountainous terrain, it should know that there is a mountain there and I have to go on top of it or I have to circumvent it. So, interaction with the environment. A drone, a mass drone, it's like a flock of birds flying together. These birds, one, never strike each other, and second, they don't go and bang themselves into a tree or into any kind of obstacle. Now, swarm drones are inspired by biological events, like, how certain bees operate together or birds operate together, or, these are flocks of birds operating together. So they are inspired by how they do it, and the algorithms generally mimic them. However, these can be customized specifically in the military domain. It is very important how you utilize all of these UAVs together to carry out a certain class of mission. There is only one aim for a swarm mission, and that is saturation. Saturation of a certain class of target, or saturating the battlefield where you can see more because you've got more eyes in the sky. You can carry out more kind of attacks, various kinetic and non-kinetic. And last but not the least, you have so many numbers that even if some of them are shot down, you still have dominance over that area of interest. These are the big benefits which, come especially in the military class of swarming. And as we go forward, I'll also tell you more about the civilian aspects. Yeah. Just imagine a large swarm of UAVs working together, going in for a disaster relief mission. So now these will be the first responders. Recently Air Force had a competition called the Meher Baba Prize. This was all about this, the first responders. Generally, it takes 6 to 8 hours for some information flow to take place. How many people have survived a catastrophic event? This is where you launch a big swarm of drones. These guys are going to go there, divide the area amongst each other, and scan it and send you the first report. How many survivors? Where the flooding has happened, or where a certain catastrophe has happened? What is the state of affairs there? They are all building up a situational awareness through saturation. So applications are varied, but swarming is here, and it's here to stay, and you'll see more and more of it, not only in military, but in your own lives very soon.
23-year-old Parinita Jain collapses and dies at a cousin's wedding. The shocking video putting the spotlight again on why just so many people are dying of heart attacks. A similar case where a 16-year-old girl in Telangana's Mahbubnagar district collapsed and died while performing at a school farewell function. And there have been just so many more instances. So there are two things that are being now seen. One, which is an increase in heart attacks in the younger population, and also increase in the number of women suffering from heart disease.
In the last 10 years, there has been a 2% increase per year in number of attacks in young individuals. So pre-COVID also there was an increase in younger individuals being affected by heart diseases. Post-COVID, we don't have exact data, but the surge appears to be higher. Because of the virus per se, inflammation, it can cause your blood to get clot in the arteries or in the veins, leading to cardiac issues. Other than this thing, because a lot of people, they lost their jobs during this era, so the depression crept.
Major risk factors for heart attacks are diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, smoking, and family history of heart diseases. Increasing stress, lack of exercise, poor eating habits, and inadequate sleep are making even young adults and women vulnerable to heart attacks. These should be the big red flags.
Diabetes, sugar, hypertension, increased blood pressure, obesity. Then comes dyslipidemia or abnormal cholesterol levels, substance abuse, tobacco and in any form smoking or chewable tobacco, they can both lead to cardiac diseases early than it was supposed to happen. Again, lack of exercise or sedentary lifestyle. Recently, we have also seen the patients who are mentally disturbed or depressed can also develop heart diseases at a very early age. There can be genetic predisposition to heart diseases.
The timing of surge in heart attacks is suspected to be directly related to the COVID pandemic. The COVID virus, once inside the body, can cause the heart to be inflamed. This condition is known as myocarditis. This further makes it hard for the heart to pump blood throughout the body. It's not the vaccines. The Indian Council of Medical Research has said it. But COVID linked to heart attacks and heart ailments has been established. So how does one prevent a heart attack?
By quitting tobacco, you can prevent strokes. By quitting tobacco, you can prevent heart diseases. So definitely no substance abuse. By doing regular checkups, by keeping your BP and sugar under control. If you are obese, try to lose weight by proper measures. Get an active life. Do at least 30 minutes of moderate intensity exercise. We take a lot of saturated fats, ghee, cheese, butter. We take a lot of sugars. So these things should be avoided. Processed food is a definite sure shot no.
First is check yourself for risk factors and already existing heart conditions if you have any. Then comes care. How do you care for your heart? You must make sure that you eat healthy diet, which is low in fat, low in carbohydrate. You must make sure that you achieve and maintain an ideal body weight. The third C is consult. Once you have checked for risk factors, you know what to care about, but you must consult a doctor. Last C is cure. If you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, you must take medicines.
When it comes to preventive health checkups, when should you do one and how frequently should you do it?
Earlier there was a concept that we had a cut-off ages based on the guidelines, and the cut-off age was 35 years, and that is the time when we start checking once. But nowadays we have a couple of patients who were as young as 7 to 8 years in the last month, for which we had to do an angioplasty. So, but this patient had a very strong family history. So in an average, we don't recommend such young kids to undergo checkups, but a person at the age of 18 years, I feel, is the best time to start checking oneself.
Are cardiac ailments more common in men than women? Or are women also becoming vulnerable?
Usually it was thought that the young women, especially those before the menopause, had a lot of protective effect because of estrogens, and which it is. But once the menopause is gone, then the beneficial effects of estrogen are no longer there, and many of these ladies have more risk of getting heart attacks, so much so that it almost equals or maybe even more than that of men by the age of 70 or late 60s. We must get our cholesterol checked at least once, and if the bad cholesterol, which is the LDL, it is high, or if the lipoprotein small a is high, it means that the risk of getting heart attack is more.
Dr. Naresh Trehan is with us. Sorry to keep you waiting, sir. We just wanted to play out that full report once so our viewers, had the context of what we're talking about. My first question to you, sir, is obviously, it seems like there is a spate of these incidents because these videos are viral. People are watching them on social media, in the media. So it's kind of unsettling to see people collapsing all over the place. Is there an issue, sir? Is there an actual issue of more young people having heart attacks in your experience?
You see, first of all, it has to be all put in perspective.
Yes.
This random thought process is not going to take us anywhere because the public must understand what are the risk factors in their life which they can have control over. So the first thing we say is know your genes. We know today that if you have family history of heart disease, then the children will have double the chance of developing early heart disease. Second, if you have history of diabetes in your family, then the children in that family will have double the chance of developing diabetes. And if unfortunately somebody has both in the family history, then the red flags are up 3 times.
Yeah.
So basically, one, if you have genetic propensity in your family, in addition to the fact that Indians generally have a higher propensity for coronary artery disease than the Western world, because of many factors about our diet, our lifestyle, sedentary lifestyle, stress levels, and on top of that, pollution that has caused another, as you can see, we talk about must stop tobacco, not smoking and chewing is bad. Now we also know that in the worst of times, when in Delhi area, or actually it's all over the country now, that when the levels of pollution are so high, you're actually smoking almost 10 to 15 cigarettes a day. So all these factors have added on. And the basic fact is that one can only help themselves by knowing your genetic and your early biochemical makeup of your body. So what we suggest is people who have family history of diabetes or heart disease, they should have their first checkup before the age of 25, because we would like to identify what are the risk factors.
Yes.
If the risk factors are identified, we can actually work towards eliminating or reducing them. The second thing we say is everyone by the age of 30 must have had a full checkup, because we want, what are the enemies right now that we are talking about?
Yes.
We're talking about the genetic factors, means your biochemical factors show that you have high lipids, you have high the apolipoprotein A, all the deficient factors which actually lead to heart disease. Second, we know whether you have a propensity for developing diabetes. Third, we know that what is the physical makeup of your body, how much fat content you have.
Yes.
So all these things if we are identified, and it's not single factor, but multi-factors which actually contribute to heart disease. So now, if you see today's science, what we have done is we have a sequencing of genome available to everyone at a very reasonable price, 8 to 10,000 rupees. You can get your whole genome sequence, in which we know that there are 3 diseases in which early gene detection has been done. So we know that for cardiac disease, the gene detection is done. So if you know that your propensity, then you will be more careful about avoiding things that are contribute to heart disease.
Correct.
Second is diabetes. Similarly, you know that there are genetic genes will tell you. And also third is cancer, which is now the new big problem that we are facing today. So all these things put together will actually tell you where you stand genetically. We add to it what we call phenome. Phenome is lifestyle, your sleep patterns, what you eat, how you live, what kind of work you do, what stress factors you add on, and that's the second thing.
Yes.
And the third is the digital health, which we can measure to say how is your heart responding to exercise. Or are there any abnormal changes which were genetically born in you? Because there are problems that you have, diseases which are genetic can cause a problem.
Correct.
So all these three things put together, we can come up with an algorithm to tell a person today, which is what we call precision individualized medicine, in which we can tell an individual what are the risk factors to their life. In other words, make a health horoscope for them.
Very extremely useful.
That is possible today. That's possible today. And this science has helped many, many people to actually steer their lives accordingly. Now, add to that, as you have mentioned earlier, COVID produced a lot
that's
of
what I was going to ask.
Yeah, okay. The COVID produced a lot of inflammation in the small arteries, what we call arterioles of the lungs, of the heart, of the kidneys, everywhere. And people who had severe COVID infection, their myocardium has been actually damaged by the virus itself. So if you never had a checkup after post serious COVID, you're not aware of the fact that your heart function is down to 25-30%.
Wow.
And if you indulge in any physical activity or any excitement activity, you can suddenly have an irregular heartbeat and actually pass away. So that's why we have to first be careful in today's environment that we get a regular checkup, the first checkup in the people who have, I'll reiterate again, before 25, the ones who have history of disease in their family, by 30, everybody, because one of the main contributing reason for disease throughout the body is high blood pressure. We did a study of 10,000 executives who came to it for the checkup to Vedanta, and we found that 26% of them had high blood pressure, which they were not aware of.
My God.
This is a very serious consequence because high blood pressure in today's day of pollution, high stress, work pressures is producing damage to the entire body, to your brain, to your lungs, to your heart, to your kidneys. So we are seeing a lot of kidney failures for unknown hypertension. So I think that there is a lot of currency and it's not expensive to get a full checkup, which will give you guidance for your life. And I think with that, you will discover if there are any inborn or lurking dangers for you, and you can actually live your life according to those limitations and try to modify your risk factors.
That's a very extremely comprehensive list of things to think about and to do for anyone who's watching, Dr. Trehan. Also, apart from the things that you mentioned, are there any new warning signs that you are noticing or you're advising your patients about? Are there some new things post-COVID that people should be aware of, sir? That that may be causing heart attacks?
See, one of the most missed symptoms is headaches. People think that headaches are, I've been stressed, I've been putting too much of blue light into me from my computers and all that. But you can miss high blood pressure, which can cause damage to the brain, which can cause damage to the whole body. So not to miss symptoms that appear early. If you are walking or brisk walking or trying to do any exercise, even when you are young, if your heart rate goes up too high or you get short of breath, best thing to do is to get a checkup. And we always recommend that if you're going to do vigorous exercise or iron pumping, you must get a full cardiac checkup before you do so, because you don't know what defects you have in your heart, which can actually, under stress, manifest themselves and be fatal.
Right.
So I think there is just a warning to everybody that India has one of the highest incidence of heart disease in the world. And it could be genetic, it could be at birth, it could be acquired by your habits. And also now alcohol is also incrementally being recognized as which weakens the heart muscle. So your heart pumping, which is normally 65%, if it goes down to 30-35%, you're prone to irregular heartbeats, which can kill you in a minute. So that's why we are saying, when we say we see people who are collapsing, dancing, singing, running, bicycling, and you just saw the groom collapse before, all these things raise your heart rate. And then if you have an underlying problem, it will manifest itself. So best thing to do is, before you indulge in any of it, get a checkup.
Dr. Trehan, always most useful to listen to you, and the warning signs are there. It's easy to be unsettled and troubled by viral videos, but these are all serious and separate cases that we need to take seriously. And we will continue to repeat what Dr. Trehan has just said on this show, because we've gotten frankly, so many queries from our viewers about this. We were actually requested to do a show putting the spotlight on this issue because people are genuinely troubled and worried. So we'll be putting this out again. Dr. Trehan, appreciate it, sir. Thank you very much for giving us your time and your advice here on India Today. Well, that's a wrap on 5 Live. Thanks for watching.